Hello, my name's Carson Reed. I wanted to check in as we anticipate orientation and opening residency coming up here in June. I know that this time and season with this pandemic has swept all of us into new places, and we're all struggling to stay sane and do the work that God has called us to and to manage our lives. So with all that confusion, I thought, and the challenge of all that, I thought maybe it'd be good for me to check in and just note a few things that would be good for you to be working on right now. I know that many of you are, because I can see evidences of it. But nonetheless, just 3 or 4 things I wanted to mention. There are 2 pieces of work that are outside of the course itself proper, and a little more oriented toward orientation. One of those is the Enneagram exercise. We've asked you to do the inventory, the WEPS inventory, and then to schedule a time with Chelsea Sargent. Chelsea is an Enneagram expert. Her day job is a therapist, and she's arranged to do consults with each of you in preparation for orientation. You may say, why are we doing this? The Doctor of Ministry program is an academic program, but we're also deeply committed to the whole person. And the Enneagram gives us an opportunity to explore what's going on inside of you and what motivates you. And I think that gives us an opportunity to reflect deeply about many things, including your own spiritual maturation and development, and how you relate and work with others. And the Enneagram gives us a wonderful place to do some of that kind of engagement. So the Enneagram, the other thing is the library exercise. The library exercise is an exercise to get you thinking about research, and for some of us who've not been in school a while, it's also an opportunity to see the power of how we can do things through the internet in terms of finding material. Craig Churchill, who is our theological librarian, will be with us during orientation, and that library exercise is kind of a launching point for him to talk about research. That will help you with the ACU library. And it's those of you who are in Australia have access to Sterling's library as well, and the University of Divinity. There'll be different access points for you to get into those resources, but some of the same principles apply. Which exercise? There's a couple, 3 floating around, and I apologize for that. Whichever exercise, if you've done that exercise already, then whatever you've done is great. You'll find the library exercise in the orientation Canvas module. With regard to 716 proper, there's a couple of things that you're being asked to attend to. One is to write a case study. To create a narrative about some conundrum or dilemma or crisis that you've experienced in your ministry, and who one of us hasn't had a few of those along the way. A case study will create the case study that you write will be one of the ways that we'll begin to explore ministerial action and theological reflection. So we're asking for you to write that study so that we'll have some good material to work with over the 2 weeks that we're together. There's a form for that. You'll find a way of writing that in some material that's posted on the assignment page for the case study. But simply put, reflect on some dilemma or conundrum that you faced in the past, where that conundrum or dilemma needs to have some theological ambiguity or challenge to it, some of the social dynamics where it's not always easy to know what the right thing to do is. We're not interested in how you handled that, whether you did it amazingly or whether it all blew up in your face. Really, the case study is simply to set up the dilemma for others to reflect on. So encourage you to be working on that, to write that in a way that your colleagues can read and be faced with the necessary information so they have a good, clear picture of the dilemma at hand. The other piece is to write an integration paper. This is just simply an opportunity for you to reflect on some of the reading you're doing. There's a lot of it, I know, and some of it's more interesting than others. Please focus on the interesting stuff. Some of the material on qualitative research may not be all that interesting, and I'm not expecting you to have that all down pat. We'll talk about qualitative research a little bit, and we'll need to coach you up a little on how to do some of that as we go through the program. But the primary focus here with the integration paper is to find sources in the reading material that can intersect with each other as you think about them, and that intersect with your ministry context. It's an opportunity for you to begin to ground your reflection coming out of your particular context with some of these sources. Feel free to not only use the required reading that is a part of the course, but some of the reading that various faculty persons are asking for you to read for their colloquia for this integration paper. Now, speaking of the colloquia, let me explain how the course will unfold. Those 2 weeks that we're together for BIBM 716 will be 2 weeks, 5 days each week, where we'll have 6 hours together. And those 6 hours will be broken up by an hour break. So 3 hours, a break, and 3 hours. I'm the teacher of record, and I'll be with you much of that time. But I've invited a wide array of colleagues to spend time with you in those 3-hour blocks. And that's how you'll see the modules laid out in Canvas. What we're doing here is a grand sort of reflection of how all the various theological disciplines speak into theological reflection and ministerial practice, to ministerial leadership. And so I've asked colleagues to speak from their disciplines: the Old Testament, New Testament, Paul, Luke, historical theology, missiology, and on the list goes, to come out of their discipline to spend those 3 hours with us, bringing some insight to us about the work of theological reflection and ministerial action. And so I think it'll be a great time to hear from folks who are coming out of their various specialties to engage with us about ministerial engagements. And each of those faculty have asked you to read a little something to kind of set the table for those conversations. So I know that's a lot of material to reflect on. I don't think you've got to know all of it intimately, but you'll want, as we go through that 2-week structure, have time to reflect and be aware enough of that material so that you can engage meaningfully with faculty through the course of those 2 weeks. So I'm excited about that and hope that you will be too. This has been one of the highlights of the program, and I'm excited that we've got faculty now from Sterling to engage in those 2 weeks with us, and it'll be a good and meaningful time together. Well, enough from me about all of this. If you've got questions, write me. Drop me an email, carson.reed@acu.edu. I'll be happy to respond to you. So blessings. May God's peace be on you as you navigate ministry and your life, along with launching your doctoral program. Look forward to seeing you all in the virtual spaces of Zoom coming very soon in June. Peace.